Good evening, everyone. Here we are at Greek, and we're up to lesson 13. So we're going to continue thinking about past tense verbs tonight. And last time we talked about 2 weeks ago, the aorist. And tonight we're going to think about the imperfect. So let's have a look at this document here about the imperfect. We might do things in a slightly different order of events today. So here is the imperfect tense, and like the aorist, the imperfect is a past tense, but the imperfect refers to an ongoing process in the past or a continuous, repeated process in the past, while the aorist refers to an event in the past. For example, the imperfect of I eat is present tense, would be I was eating, while the aorist would be I ate. Now, that's a very simplistic way of thinking about it, but it's a useful starting point for thinking about and distinguishing between the two types of past tense. And we sometimes think of the imperfect as being like a linear tense, whereas the aorist is a point tense. The imperfect is could call it a two-dimensional tense, whereas, or maybe it's not. Maybe both of them are one-dimensional. I don't know. But you can see on the picture there, the aorist is pictured as a dot. Now that doesn't describe it all, but it's a useful way of conceptualizing the difference to start off with anyway. So what are the endings of the imperfect? Well, it has an epsilon prefix, just like the aorist, and this indicates past tense. And then it has pretty similar endings to the present tense, because like the present tense is also a continuing process sort of tense. So it is quite similar to the present tense. If you look at the first person plural, woman, well, the only difference is the epsilon on the front. We loosed. Well, maybe we could translate it better. We were loosing. And you plural, you loosed. Elueta. That's very similar again to the present tense. And the second person singular, elues, is very similar to lues. It just drops off the iota in the ending. So the full form of it, one little peculiarity is that the first person singular is the same as the third person plural, and we have to use, what do we use to tell whether it's I was loosing or they were loosing? Is there any way you can think of it? No, we won't have the article with a verb. We would have the article with a noun. But in a sense, you're right, because it will be the context which will help us determine which is which, and the article will play a help in the sentence if there is an article attached to the noun to tell us if it is the man. Well, the article probably wouldn't be involved in either of these cases. Maybe in the plural, the people, the would give us a clue that it is third person plural. So the full forms are eluon, elus, eluen, and you can see that eluen has a movable nu on the end. That means sometimes they drop it off, sometimes they leave it on. Then eluomen, elueta, eluon. Now with the EW verbs, the EW ending forces a little change here or there. So the rules for the EW verbs are that if you have two E's, it forces an EI, and we can see this with the second person singular and the third person singular and the second person plural. Fill e plus an E in the ending, it causes the verb to change, the vowels to change to EI. And then the E plus O forces three of the forms to turn into OU endings. Effilun, effilumen, and effilun at the end. So that is a brief introduction to the forms and the meaning of the imperfect. And you've really got to just do a few exercises of it until it gets worked into your mind that these are the endings. And okay, any questions about the imperfect then?
Yep. So the third example for the EO terms, I'm just wondering if there's any example for that one. So the third case, if you scroll down a little bit more.
Yep.
Yeah. So that
So
third case, epsilon plus a long vowel.
you don't find it here in the imperfect, but it does occur in some other forms. So with the present tense, okay, with the present tense, say fill o, the e, the epsilon drops out in the present tense. So you have
I see.
fill o becomes philo, and what else do we have? Phil Usen becomes Phil Usen, and the diphthong again, it drops out. This is in the present tense, and it's just Lu Usen, or F. Yeah, it's Lu Usen. But
I see.
the that would be Phil Usen, yes. So yes, it does occur in the present tense. Here you're only dealing with the first two cases of these vowel collisions, we'll call them, where the vowels collide and drop out or get changed. Okay, now let's go straight to our advanced Bible study now then, and think a bit more about the aorist, because the aorist is what we looked at last time, and it is the most important and most common vowel verb tense, and it is I've been saying a number of times now that we've been thinking about it in a very simplistic way. So let's explain what it really is getting to, okay? And this is very important for Bible study because people have made all sorts of doctrinal arguments based on the fact that something is an aorist as opposed to an imperfect. And we're going to see in this study here that often these arguments they have made are doctrinally and grammatically false, because they think of the aorist as being sort of a dot tense. Okay, so I'll get you to read the first paragraph here, John, and then I'll read the second after you.
Okay. Seeing the aorist tense is not found or used in English, it is possible to misunderstand its meaning. Indeed, false ideas and doctrines have been derived from these misunderstandings. The aorist tense usually expresses an action in the past, indicated by the epsilon augment. It is a past tense of the verb. However, the imperfect tense is also a past tense. What's the difference? For a simplistic way of thinking about the difference, to say that the imperfect refers to an ongoing process or repeated process in the past, while the aorist refers to an event in the past. For example, the imperfect of I eat would be I was eating, or the aorist would be I ate.
Very good. All right. Thus, the aorist has been described by some writers as a point tense, while the imperfect is a line tense, an ongoing process. However, the truth is more complex. The word aorist literally means unmarked or undefined. The alpha at the beginning of the word negatives it, meaning not, and horos, from which we get the second part of the word, literally means a mountain or a geographical boundary marker. By speaking of the aorist as undefined or unmarked, we mean that the aorist tells us about an action without specifying anything further, whether the verb is unique or repeated or instantaneous or past or complete. It's not actually telling us. It is a verb that is undefined or unmarked. Here is Dan Wallace in Greek Grammar Beyond the Basics. He says, the aorist portrays the action in summary fashion. The aorist takes a snapshot of the action, while the imperfect, like the present, takes a motion picture. The aorist is a verb stripped down to its most simple form. Well, not in its form, but in its meaning, without further specifying whether the action was once for all, momentary, or repeated. Unfortunately, some people with a simplistic understanding of the aorist tense have tried to argue that it always refers to a single event in the past, a point in time, or a once-for-all completed event. From this, they have even used the aorist to argue for certain false doctrinal ideas. If you want to read the next paragraph for us there, John.
Yep. For example, Romans 6:13 says, "Do not present your members as instruments of unrighteousness to sin, but present yourselves to God as being alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to God." The first word, present, in the verse is in the present tense, and an ongoing line tense, while the second word, present, is in the aorist tense, and was said by some to prove that consecration was a once-for-all step of faith and surrender. Similarly, in Romans 12:1, "I beseech you by the mercies of God that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice." The fact that the word present is in the aorist tense was also used to argue that consecration was a once-for-all step taken to enter into a higher state of spiritual life, the second blessing. Others have argued that repent in Revelation 3:19, be zealous and repent, must be a once-for-all event, seeing it is in the aorist. However, it is not true to say that an aorist signifies a once-for-all event. There are many examples of aorists not being used in a once-for-all sense. For example, Romans 3:23 says that all have sinned, but no sane reader of the Bible would argue from this that people only sinned once for all at some point in the past. Ephesians 2:1-2 speak about how we once walked errors in transgressions and sins. But this obviously was a repeated, ongoing action in the past, not a once-for-all event.
Okay, so any questions from that? Is that quite clear? There was
very clear.
There was a teaching, particularly in the late 1800s, that talked about how Christians could enter into blessing, enter into the victorious life, into a life of triumph over sin and power in serving God And it was presented as a step of faith, a once-for-all consecration, where you present yourself, you surrender, you let go and let God. And this, they argued from some of these verses here that this consecration is a once-for-all step instead of being an ongoing consecration. And so they took some of these verses about presenting yourselves to God in Romans 6:13 and Romans 12:1 as evidence that consecration, entering into a state almost of sinless perfection, the second blessing, it was a step of instantaneous blessing. But this is a misuse of the aorist. The aorist does not always mean a once for all action. Okay, here's the next paragraph. Furthermore, other verses in the New Testament teach us that consecration is not a once for all event. For example, Romans 8:13 says, "For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live." The word put to death is in the present tense here. That is an ongoing tense. John MacArthur writes that this verse disproves several false views of how believers are made holy. Two, that we must God take over while we remain idle. And three, that some turning point decision will propel us to a higher level of holiness. 1 John chapter 5 verse 21 warns us to keep yourselves from idols. But the fact that the verb keep is in the aorist does not mean that if we have avoided idols once, there is no more danger. So, yeah, that verse in Romans 8:13 is quite useful for understanding some common mistakes. It's telling us that we have to put to death the deeds of the body. It's not a case of letting go and let God doing it. It's in the present tense, which means that this is a continuing need in our lives to put to death by the Spirit the deeds of the body. And so it's a nice verse for disproving some of these arguments that holiness is attained in a once for all surrender, where you don't actually do anything to be holy, you just let go. Okay, so if you want to read the next paragraph there for us, John, please.
Yes. It is true that the aorist is the most commonly used form of the verb in the New Testament. It is usually found in narratives describing events in the past. But to argue from this that it always means a once-for-all, completed event in the past is not true. The aorist can be used of actions in the present or the future. Thus, at Christ's baptism, the Father says, "In you I am well pleased." That's eudoxotha, which is in aorist in Mark 1:11. But this divine pleasure in the Son was not a one-off, once-for-all moment in the past. Similarly, 1 Peter 1:24 says the grass withers. That's exeranthi, another aorist. But again, our Bible doesn't translate this in the past tense. In other moods, apart from the indicative, aorists are used for events in the future. Thus, Ephesians 2:7 says that in the ages to come, he might show aorist the exceeding riches of his grace and his kindness towards us in Christ. This will obviously not mean that God will display his grace just once in all eternity.
Okay, so what I'm saying, I suppose, in this lesson here then is that an aorist is an unmarked or an undefined tense of the verb. That is its original and its usual understood meaning. It often speaks of events that have happened in the past in narratives. But to try and argue that it always means a once-for-all event, that it'll never be repeated, to distinguish it from the imperfect tense, is not the case. So I hope that is maybe a bit of a help.
Yep, it is helpful. I do want to ask though, Andrew, with the Romans 6 verse up there in I think third paragraph or something.
Yep.
Was there any alternative explanation then of why Paul used two different tenses for the present word?
Well, in the first one, in Romans 6:13, he uses both tenses. He uses the present tense,
and aorist.
Do not keep on presenting, or do not go on presenting your members as instruments of unrighteousness. That's in the present tense. But it says, present yourselves to God as being alive from the dead. And the second one is in the aorist. So it's hard to see any particular reason why one was used rather than the other, because they obviously stand in contrast to each other. And yes, some people have argued that this is a once for all presenting yourselves to God. But the problem with that is that there are other verses in the New Testament which disprove this sort of grammatical argument.
I guess we don't know for sure why.
Yeah,
Paul did that.
It's very hard to see any particular reason why the aorist was used in the second occurrence in that verse in Romans 6:13. Yeah. So in a sense, it is the most important type of tense, and because we don't have it in English, it's a bit hard to understand at first. And sometimes we scratch our head to see why the aorist was used as opposed to a present tense. So, yeah, but it's all I'm saying is it's precarious trying to build grand doctrinal edifices on the aorist, particularly on a mistaken understanding or a simplistic understanding of the aorist.
I agree.
Okay, and even with the present tense and the imperfect, well, the present tense particularly, the present tense is a continuing tense in the present, but we don't always translate it that way. We often just translate it in the simple present voice. I eat instead of I am eating. So, yeah. Anyway, it's a very important tense, the aorist, and it's important to understand a little bit about some of the range of meanings that it could possibly have. And there have been occasions when people have tried to read too much into the aorist. That's all I'm saying here. All right. Now, let's go back over any homework. I think through the homework last time, John. I'd have to look back. What would it be? 2 weeks. What are we today? The 26th. 26th. That would take us back to the 12th. June. Yeah. 12th or 13th. Greek homework. Yes, I think I already commented on your excellent work there. Were there any questions that you remember you might have struggled with? I had a quick look through it and thought it was all looking pretty good. So maybe
There
we
was
can.
one number 6, I think. I think
Oh,
most of them are all right, but number 6, there's a tricky part. I think.
let me see if I can twist. Where are you gone? Let's stop sharing that. Greek homework 12. Question 6. Okay. So what did you have for question 6?
It was for the answer. It was the Christ existed from eternity and built the church of His, which sounds okay. I just circled the eternity there.
Yeah.
So the word eternal that we learned was an adjective.
So the word I think we had the word ionios for an adjective.
Ionios. Yeah.
A little bit earlier. Was that in lesson?
That's right. I think
Where would that
2
be?
weeks back. Oh no.
Yeah.
Be
Vocabulary lesson
10.
I think.
Yep. Number 10. Yep.
Let's see if I
Yeah,
can
that's
find
right.
the vocab there. Vocab lesson 10. We had
Yeah.
ionios,
Yeah.
which
Yeah. Which is,
means eternal. So
yeah.
it comes from a noun, ion.
Okay.
First 4 letters, alpha,
Mm.
iota, omega, nu. Ion, which means an age. And in the plural, it can mean the ages, ionion or ionon. And so this is where we get the word eternal from, of the ages. So in our homework question here, we have what is really an adjective. Christ existed from of the ages. Maybe the word time is implicit in there. Eternal days, or from eternal, I don't know what, times.
Right.
And it's a plural genitive adjective here. Christ existed from eternal times and built his church.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, the use of these words for eternal and eternity is, it's not as straightforward as in English. For example, the Greeks sometimes use this word ion, age, to talk about the world. So in Hebrews chapter 1, it says this: God, who at various times and in various ways spoke to the fathers by the prophets, has in these last days spoken unto us in his Son, whom he has appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. And the word worlds there is the noun form of eternal. He made the ages. And it's talking about the universe. He's talking about the fourth dimension of the universe, not length, height, and breadth, but time, to describe the same sort of world that we live in. So it's a bit of a curious word, and the Greeks have some strange ways of using it. Okay. All right, let's leave that there. Let's do a bit of a class reading. Oh, no, we won't do a class reading. First, we'll do a bit of vocabulary for some more verbs, and we can think about their aorist and their imperfect forms, perhaps. So I'll get you to read through. There's not so much vocabulary tonight.
Yep. Was it on the screen?
Sorry.
Oh, good.
looking at my extra screen here.
Yep. Cool. All right. Yep, that would be good. The first one is peitho, which is I persuade or convince. Yep, pisteuo is helpful. The second one is apocalypto, which is I reveal or uncover. It's from Apocalypse, of course. Okay. And then it's eulogio, eulogeo, which is it I speak well in black? There seems to be an I missing there.
Yep.
Yep. I've got a word eulogy from it. And the next one is Eucharistic. Yep, eulogy. Eulogy. Yep. I can't quite remember what people use the word for. Blessings related.
So a eulogy is a speech. Eulogy is a speech normally delivered at a funeral where we say some nice words about the person.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. Cool. The next one is Eucharisteo, which is I give thanks, and because Roman Catholics Eucharist from there.
Yep.
And then the next one is prosecco. Just I take heed to or pay attention. Exudated. And then next one is pantote, which is always. And then we've got pote, which is once. And Cimeron, which is today, and very similar to Hemera, helpful. RT is now, just remember that. Upo is not yet.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Similar to uketi.
Yeah. So U is not the OU.
Yep.
And this is not yet here.
Yep.
Okay.
Was uketi also not yet? It was not still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very similar in meaning.
Yet. Right. Yeah.
So let's just have a look at one or two curiosities about these words. Peitho means I persuade or I convince. And pisteuo is the noun form of it, which means I believe. And it teaches us a very simple truth that a lot of atheists today want to try and bury their head in the sand and ignore. And that is someone believes something, pisteuo, I believe, because they're convinced or they're persuaded about it, usually because of evidence or facts. We don't believe, there's not many people in the world who believe something for no reason whatever. Atheists think that belief is believing in something that has no evidence or no reason, or believing in something you know isn't true. This is their definition of believing. But if they knew the slightest bit about where the words in the Bible came from, they would know that believing here comes from someone being persuaded about something by arguments or evidence that it is true. So apocalypto, the second word, means to reveal or uncover, and it's the idea of uncovering or drawing back the curtain and looking into the future. So some people call the last book of the Bible the apocalypse, the revealing of the future. And it comes from two words, apo, which means off, and cover, which is calypto. I cover, but here it's uncover. cover off. And it's the idea of drawing back the curtain so we can look into the future. Eulogeo, again, means comes from you. You could see the EU at the front, just as in the next word, Eucharisteo. Both of these words, the word you is the adjective form, the adverb form of good. So good in Greek is agathos or kalos, but here is the adverb form. To speak well is eulogeo, and to give thanks is really to give thanks well. Eucharisto. So, yeah. All right, we don't need to say too much more. These last 5 words are all related to time. Pan tota, always. Tota is once. Sameron is just adding the a few letters to the front of hemera, which is the word for day. Sameron means really this day or today. Arti means now, upo not yet. Okay, any final questions on that vocab?
Good. Oh, good.
Oh, good. Okay. Now you might want to keep that vocab open there. We're going to do a class reading exercise where we're going to do a bit of translating from John's Gospel, chapter 9.
Chapter 9. Okay.
What was the story in John chapter 9? Does anybody remember?
Does anybody remember? John chapter 9. Not quite.
No, it was the story of the healing of the blind man. So we're going to find blind and eyes a few times in this chapter. And eyes is ophthalmos, as in an ophthalmologist. That's an eye surgeon. Blind is tuphlos. We don't have a word in English based on tuphlos. So we'll find those words plus others in our passage. Let's see if we can pump this up one little bit more in size. Oh, we nearly make it, but we do make it completely.
Too much.
We do make it completely for verses 13 and 14. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. I can start.
Yep.
Gusten auton pros tus. That's this is I. No, this is phi. Pharisaeus. Ton pote. Tuflon.
So tuflon comes from tuphlos, which means blind.
Blind. Yeah. Okay. So a gusten would be they lead.
Correct. Or they bring.
Yeah, they bring. Auton would be she. Would be he. Okay, so that's basically the subject, accusative of autos.
Correct.
Singular. So bring him.
Yes, well done. They bring him
towards the Pharisees. That's
yes, to the Pharisees, pros tus Pharisaeus. They bring him to the Pharisees.
Tom pote would just cover it. Pote is once.
Correct.
Who was once blind. So
yes,
the man was once blind.
Correct.
So they brought a man who was once the man who was once blind to the Pharisees.
Yes, very good.
Very good.
So there we go. That's verse 13. All right.
All right.
Number 14.
Okay, 14.
Just read it out first in Greek.
Yep. Ein de Sabbaton and K, which Hemera con Halon mud appoint appoison hope Jesus hai aneoxen. There's an equal sign. What's that?
Yeah, don't worry about that. I'll explain that soon.
Very cool. Out to choose. It's awful. Let's see. Ophthalmus.
Good.
Yep.
All right.
Ambiguous
So,
first word. I guess it was. It happened to be. It happened to
yep,
be a Sabbath.
it was,
Um,
or he was, or she was. But because the next word along after the d is Sabbath,
yeah.
yeah, we're going to go with it was.
Yeah. Okay. It was a Sabbath
Yes.
in the
In
day.
which.
In
Now,
which
we haven't
day?
come
Yep.
across this looks like the definite article, the, but it's actually a relative pronoun. So we haven't done relative pronouns yet, and we'll come to them
Okay.
in a few lessons' time. But when there's
Yeah.
a word and I've put the in brackets after it an English word, that's a translation
Yep.
for that. So
Okay.
it was a Sabbath in which Hemera.
In which day
Yeah.
the that's Palon. I don't think
Pelon
we
is
covered
mud.
this word.
No,
Oh, okay. So okay.
that's why we've
Right.
got it in brackets after it. In which
Okay.
in which
So that
day
which is also the hey. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Right. In which day the mud poison. Okay. Gotta cut off the epsilon. Cut off the then. So oil is do.
yes.
It then
Or
then
do
is he she it
do or
singular. Yep.
yes.
Or do or make. Do or make.
Yes.
So this would be he she it was. Let me see. This is ours. Wait.
Yes.
Yep. This is ours. So was made. Okay.
Nearly.
Yeah. Jesus
Nearly.
made.
Jesus made.
Made by
Sorry, it says.
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So
Jesus
the,
made.
the Greek sentence construction has put the Jesus after the made here,
Yep.
and that throws
Yep.
us off a bit because
Yep.
we would put Jesus in front of the verb. So
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
mud, ton pelon, is the object. Then we
Yep.
have the verb. Then we have the subject. That is completely back to front to the order we put sentences in English. But I'm just following what
Right.
the Bible does. This is why we
Right.
do these class readings, so we can get used to the maybe unusual way that we think Greek is written.
Yep.
Okay, so
Okay.
it was the Sabbath
So
in which
yep.
day
In which
Jesus
day the
made
mud Jesus
the
made the
mud.
mud. Right.
Yeah.
And ane sen. So remove the R, remove the sen. Ne.
Now,
Ne.
this one is going to be very difficult for you to translate,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason is that if you look at the word in brackets,
Yep.
enoixen,
Yep.
just go with enoixen. Don't look at the other one for the moment. Try and work out what
Mm-hmm.
enoixen is. It's an aorist, I'll give you that, and therefore
Yep. Okay.
try and
And
work out
therefore. Okay. Like through the context or just from the word itself.
just the word itself. If it's an
Okay.
aorist, you should be able to do
Yeah.
a number of
Okay.
things there, like you were
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
do with anioxen, but do them with
Yeah. Yeah.
enoixen.
Yeah. So I would know that the eta was from was transformed word was a transformed, I guess, diphthong. You got the epsilon plus something which is probably alpha. So
Yes.
annoyed, if it's annoyed girl, it would be I open.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
So
So it would
the
be
alpha
open
at the
and
front of
open.
anoigo, the
Yep.
alpha
Yep.
at the front of anoigo has been lengthened
Yep.
because this is what happens when you put in the aorist. You either
Or
stick an epsilon on the front or you lengthen the vowel. So the eta there has got to go back to an alpha or an epsilon. But in this case, once we stick an alpha on the front there, it looks very quickly like anoigo.
yeah,
And
that's right. Yeah.
the the gamma there turns into a xi because of the addition of the sigma, the aorist
Mm.
marker, the aorist flag, the sigma in there. So this is third person
He opened.
singular. He
Yeah, that's
opened.
right. Yeah. He opened another out too. So yeah, I guess that's he as well. So he
Yep.
opened the eyes of his.
Yep. So the way we would read this is it was Sabbath, in which day Jesus
Mm.
made
Made
mud,
mud.
and
Made mud.
he opened his eyes. Now, we would normally put
Yep.
the autu after tous ophthalmos. We would say the eyes
Mm.
of him, but here they've chucked
Mm.
the autu at the beginning of the sentence. Now,
I see.
in Greek, this word anoigo, it actually has
Mm.
two aorist forms.
Okay.
So this is why I've put the normal aorist form that you are familiar with, but you can see the other one, the
Mm.
aorist has some similarities. It's still got the
Yep.
xi, and you can see that they haven't lengthened the front of the word. It just stays the same. Anioxen. So
Mm.
this is a very unusual form of aorist for anoigo.
Mm.
But yeah, it's just another form of the aorist of anoigo. So translate the whole sentence at one run
So
without
be
reading.
in, yeah, it was a Sabbath in which day Jesus made mud
The
and
mud.
opened the mud and opened the eyes of him.
Yes, very good. Excellent.
Mm.
Or and opened his eyes. But
His eyes,
that's
yeah.
very good. Okay. Whew. Let's go on and have a go at this one here.
Okay.
Now this one has some imperfects in it as well as aorists. So
Okay.
and there are some words that you don't know yet, and so I've put them in
That's right.
bracket.
Even the first word, elegant, I don't think we've covered that at all.
Yes, we have. This is Lego,
Huh?
which is I
Okay, of
say,
course.
and
Okay,
it
yeah.
is what form of Lego is it?
It will be imperfect. Yeah.
Yes,
There's no sigma in there. That's what I
correct.
remember
Well
for
done.
now.
That shows us that it's an imperfect rather than aorist. Now,
Yeah.
what
So like
form?
yeah.
It could be one of two
It's
forms of the
that's right.
imperfect.
Singular first person or plural third person.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, it's very, very, very common to find um, third person verbs in narratives. Very, very
okay.
rare do you have I was saying in narratives, except when someone is talking in dialogue. Here,
Mhm.
it's going to be third person plural. They
Okay.
were saying, therefore. Un is therefore. They were therefore saying, okay,
And
keep on
therefore
going
saying,
now.
yeah, and therefore saying X, which is up, off, um, that's plural genitive and
Yep,
Pharisaion. So yep, um, up the Pharisees, some, so Tness, okay. Look, Estin is not, are not,
yep,
Utos, this
yes,
one, Hara, beside, alongside, um, Theou, God's genitive for
Yep.
anthropos, the man. So,
Good.
wait,
Okay, let's stop it
one
there a
of the
second.
men.
You've got all
Yep.
you've got all the
Yep.
words. You've got all the words. You've got all the words right there. Let me just put it into readable English.
Yeah. Yep.
This is the way we would probably write this in English. We would say, some from the Pharisees, or
Okay.
of the Pharisees. Ekton Pharisaion is talking about from. Some tines of the Pharisees were saying, therefore, elegon un, this man is not from God. So literally it reads, not is this from God the man. But we would say in English, this man is not from God. Now that para, because theou is in the genitive, it is again the idea, it's the ablative genitive here. He is not from beside God. And we would just translate it from God. This man is not from God. So this is what some of the Pharisees, tines, some of the Pharisees were saying. Okay, so that makes sense. You can see the way the Greeks, they just scramble the word order up completely. And it's very difficult when you're first starting out, because you're expecting it to flow in the same word order as English, but they don't care about word order very much. Okay, second half of that sentence.
That's hoti, which is because to Sabbaton ut tire. There will be a Sabbath, not keep. So because he doesn't keep the Sabbath.
Very good. He doesn't keep the Sabbath.
Yep. And alloy, which is others, the elegon, that would be, there's a there, but so it will be others were saying.
Correct. But others were saying, the de is but here, alloy is others, but others were saying.
Others were saying, how?
Yes.
The natai, is he able?
Yes.
Anthropos, the man.
Yep.
Hamatos, sinner.
Yes.
Toyota, okay, such. And the Samaya, sign.
This is plural. This is plural neutive.
That's right.
So it's signs.
That's right. Poyen, yin. Okay, to do. Yep, would be how is he able to do such signs to the sinner?
Nearly. How is a man, a sinner, able to do such signs? Now that last word there, poien, this is poieo, but it's in a different form, a different mood that we haven't come across yet, with that ending ein on the end. This is what we call the infinitive mood. We'll come to that in a few lessons' time. But it puts it in what we call the dictionary form of a verb, to do. So how is a sinful man, or a man, a sinner, able to do such signs? So try translating the whole sentence, the whole verse rather, in readable English. You've got to juggle around your words a bit to get them into normal English.
Okay. Therefore, some of the Pharisees were saying, this man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath. But others were saying, how is a man, a sinner man, a man who is a sinner, do such signs?
Very good.
I think I might
How
be
is the
stuck
man who is a sinner able to do such
to do
sign?
such. Right? Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Verse 17, I'll do this one to give you a little break. So, legusen un to tuflo palin ti su leges peri autu hoti inioxen su tus ophthalmus. And we'll translate this as follows. Legusen, they say, un, therefore, to tuflo, to the blind man, palin, again, ti, what, su, what do you say, or what are you saying, peri, autu, that he opened su, your, tus ophthalmus, eyes. They say to the blind man again, what do you say about him? That he opened your eyes? Okay. All right. If you want to have a go at number 18 there, John.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Before that, can I ask what the hoti does hoti means because or that? Was that right? I can't remember. I think we had a hoti in front as well. I might be stuck.
Sorry, we're breaking up there a bit with the internet. Hoti
Yep.
means
Yep.
hoti means because or that. I
Okay.
think we had it.
Last one, 16, I think.
No. Sometimes it is used to introduce a um, a, a spoken sentence, almost like inverted commas in or quote marks in
Okay.
English. But here it
Right.
just means in verse 17, it either means because or that. What do you say about him? That he opened your eyes? And that's probably the way I would take it as a question there. What do you say about him?
Okay.
That he opened your eyes?
Mm.
We're going to see
All
Hoti
right.
again in verse 18, halfway through.
Okay. Me this 18. Oh, epistusan un oi idioi. Let me just stop there for a bit. It would be not what's in Osan, there'll be they believe. No, they
Correct.
did not believe.
Yes.
Un was therefore.
Yes.
Was it hoi? Yeah, that's hoi eudioi. So that's plural nominative of Jews, the Jews.
Yes.
Therefore, the Jews did not believe peri autu hoti about him that was
Correct.
and
That he
Tuflos.
was.
He
Tuflos
was
is blind.
blind. Yep. I and ane aneblepsen. So
I don't
that
think
looks
I,
like
I
yep.
I don't
I
think
think we
you've
have.
been given I don't think you've been given this
I
word. It means to see
yeah.
again.
Receive. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Anablepsin.
Receive side or something. I think I come across that somewhere, but yeah, because blepo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've seen
Blepsen.
blepo. We've
Yeah.
seen blepo, which means I see, and
Yeah.
anablepo means to see again.
Yeah. Okay. So that's in the let me see. Sen. Blepsen. Blepsen. That would be in the aorist form. Um. blind and
Yes.
see and saw again. Yep. About him who was blind and saw again. That's Heos.
Heos Hotu, we'll just translate that.
Oh, okay. That's until. And then it's Epho Ephonescent. Ephonescent. Okay. Eson. Phone. And there'll be good. So they heard. Until they heard.
No, they called.
Oh, call?
Until they called.
Isn't it phony? Isn't it
Phoneo.
phony?
Yeah.
Ah.
Phony means to call or to sound.
Ah, okay. Yep. Yep. I thought it was just sound or voice. Yep.
Yes.
That's
No,
right.
this
Yeah.
is
Okay.
the
So it would
verb
be
form.
called. Yeah.
The noun form is sound or voice, but
Yeah.
the verb form of it
Yeah.
talks about really.
Yep. Okay. And then it's tous connaissent, which is parents. Oh, to his parents until they
Yeah.
call his parents. Okay.
Yep. So put the whole
So
sentence together in one.
yep, it would be therefore they did not believe. The Jews did not believe about him who was blind. Yep, who was blind and saw again until they called his parents.
Correct. Very good. All right. Now, last one, verse 21. Have a go at this one.
Yep. Pose, which is how, there, but,
Yes.
nin, now, um,
Yes.
wepe, which is he, she, sees, ut, not,
Yes.
oidamen, we know.
Very good.
Just piece that together. But now we see as a how there. So how does now we see?
Yep.
But not know.
Yes.
Oh wait, there's no but. Oh yeah, there's no
Yep.
but. Okay. Now we see.
So the
But
way we
how
would
do we not know? Yeah.
the way we translate this is this. But that's
Yeah.
the de.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
now sees, we do not know.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
here's
Right.
the
Right.
trick with
Yeah.
here's the trick with the word de. The word
Mm.
de never is allowed to go in the first place in a sentence. But in English,
Yep.
we always put it as the first word in a sentence. So we have to, when we're translating in Greek, they never allow this word to go first in the sentence, but really it is the first thought in the sentence. So
Okay.
we would translate it, but how now he sees, we do not know.
We do not know. Yep. Yep. Okay. And then it'll be that's that's E, which is or. Who?
Yes.
Wait, was that hey? Was that hey or E?
No, you're
I think it
quite
was a
correct. It is the word for or, which it's a.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. A tis, which is who, and then it's a noi san. Looks like the Anoigo.
Yes.
Anoigo in this will be Anoigo in aorist form.
Yep.
So who opened? Two, which is his, tooth of Thalmus eyes, his eye, the eyes of his.
Yes.
And then is Hemes we oidamen. And this is no. So we do not know. Oh
Yep.
wait, oidamen.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Good. So put the
So-
whole sentence together then. Put it together in good English.
Yeah. So it yeah. So but how he now sees, we do not know. Or who opened his eyes of his or his eyes, we do not know.
Excellent. Well done. All right. So there's a lot of new words that you're getting thrown in there just to fill
Yeah.
out the rest of the sentences. But it's very
Yeah.
useful to see the way that they jumble up sentences, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah, indeed.
you get a little bit more used to the real way that they speak. Okay, excellent work, John.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, so that's about it for tonight. We have looked at these forms of the imperfect, and the homework is an exercise using the imperfect. There might be some aorists in the homework as well, just to keep working on them a little bit.
Yeah.
And so most of them in the homework will be imperfects to try and give you a bit of a drill on imperfects. But I would strongly encourage you. We're not going to have Greek for the next 2 weeks because we're on holidays. Next week I'm at boys and girls camp, and the week after we'll have a break as well. So you've got 2 Monday nights, and use that time if you want to go and have a look at Mr. Duff and his chapter on the aorists and the imperfects, and that is chapter 6, I do believe, in Mr. Duff. And yeah, getting the aorists down and getting the future and the imperfect. This is it's difficult, but with enough drills and exercises, it becomes a little bit more understandable. So yeah, there's a few exercises in chapter 6 there that you can work on if you want to.
Okay.
I don't think my exercises are not his. I've made up other ones, so you can have a look at his ones. You'll notice in the back of chapter 6 there that his Greek reading that he gives you there is exactly the class reading we have just done. In the class reading today, we looked at John chapter 9, verses 13 to 21. He gives exactly the same class reading. So we've done that. So yeah, if you want to work a bit on some of the exercises he gives through that book, just to reinforce some of the difference between the imperfects and the aorists. This is crucial because the aorists are the most common verb, and just getting used to some of the being able to spot them, that they've got the lengthened front and they got the sigma insert and they've got the alpha endings apart from the third person singular. This is very useful, and it helps you if you know these flags and you see that the imperfect doesn't have them. You say, I'm onto you. You're an imperfect. You're not an aorist. Okay.
Yeah.
So any other questions there from
So good today.
That okay. Excellent. Well done, John. So I'll see you in 3 Mondays' time, and we'll see how you're going then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good,
All right.
John. Let's just pray, and we'll ask for the Lord's help and blessing over this holiday period. Father, we give you thanks for being able to look into these tenses of the verb, the future tense and the aorist and the imperfect in the past. We pray for your help for John and also for Jake as they look at these tenses and work on these exercises. You might give them help and bless them Father, for their hard work in this. We pray for your blessing upon the camp activities and the holiday break. Lord, that we might be able to glorify you in this period. Amen.
Amen.
Now,
Thank you, Andrew.
Now, John, you're not from Malaysia or Singapore, are you?
I am. I am a Malaysian.
Yep. John, you're not from Malaysia or... Oh, very good. I was in Malaysia last week for this
I realized.
International Brethren Conference on Mission.
Yeah. Was it AMC?
So, yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Was it AMC?
Yeah, so I was in...
someone came
yeah,
and
AMT.
advertised that. AMT. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So there was quite a lot of Australians there, but yeah, we stayed in this hotel in the center of Kuala Lumpur, and
right.
One day they let us out to go and see the town. So yeah, it was very good. Had a great time there in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah. Was that your first time?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
You wouldn't happen to know a brother called Adrian from one of the assemblies in Kuala Lumpur, would you?
No. I didn't come from an assembly background, like brethren background, so no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that's my first time in Malaysia, really, and I really enjoyed it, actually.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Good night then, John, and we'll see you in 3 Mondays' time.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. Good night.
Yep. Good night.